Well, we're back. You know, there are some moments in our lives that we remember, and today, in a way or another, we're going to try to remember together those kind of moments and why. Because that's one of the most. It's one of the questions that I ask myself often, like very, very, very often, because I'm always wondering why there are certain moments that they just stick to our memories, and they're simple moments, very small and quite insignificant if you're thinking about it. Like sometimes there's a very very small little thing, like I don't know, a sound. It could be a room. It could be a smell. It could be like a very small little thing that could remind you of a moment back in time that was important for you. And sometimes, and this is the weird part, a very big moment in our lives could just shift into the unknown of our own memory. And that for me is something that I kind of hardly understand it, you know? I don't know if it ever happened to you, um, peeling an orange. When I peel an orange, I could easily smell the Christmas. And that for me it's an incredible fact, not because I can remember Christmas, not because it is an orange that I know I would like, because I know the taste of that orange. I know what Christmas usually does to us. But what is the incredible part about that happening is that that particular gesture, action of me peeling that orange brings a version of myself, a very younger piece of me. It just brings it back into my memory. And if I had to compare this with the moment when I've graduated, I I struggle remembering that moment. I was surrounded by people, hundreds if not thousands of people at that moment, and everyone was so happy. The graduation day, like school was over, responsibility as we thought we have them, and those moments they absolutely disappeared, and somehow I don't remember that day. And this is something that for me probably will be part of the episode that we are going to this little conversation that we are trying to build up today. And I am just trying to understand why some little moments that they seem completely insignificant, they do come back to us over the years, and why we usually understand only later how important they are. Because it's just really much later in life that we actually understand that it is an important moment for us, or particularly for me, because I was just referring at that little example that I gave you a few seconds ago. And there is maybe another thing that I have been thinking about, and if I have to compare this, balance in between the small little moments and the bigger moments that they just shift or not from our memories, I am trying to bring this topic into the conversation today, which is about the people, not just the moments. The people that have been there in our lives, somehow they had a big role or a minor role in our existence, and somehow we haven't noticed. Because I guess I bet, as it happened with me, definitely happened with you as well too. There are a lot of people that you cannot remember that somehow influenced your life as it is today. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Daniel. I am back with another episode from The Things We Keep. Joey is here with me, as he's always going to be, because he's just supervising the whole doing, and hopefully we're doing a good thing. And yes, this is what we're gonna try to talk today. We're gonna try to understand again the things we keep, and what is the story behind those things that we're actually keeping. And the introduction of this episode was very simple, because I have tried to give you a little bit of a reference as a small little memory that comes back to me and brings me Christmas, for instance. But if one of those moments, like Christmas, for example, stayed with me for all this time, and 35 years after, I still remember it. It's because there is probably at some point it was something that happened with an orange that just like somewhere inside of that little head of mine, and my brain wanted me to remember. As for example, I'll give you another example. I was not even 15 years old. I was a little, not even 15, because it was somewhere in it was the October of that year. And I remember that it was, the circumstances just brought me to the fact of actually walking together with some friends into a radio station. And I did that because at the high school at that moment, we had to present a project. It was pretty cool. It was everything. I didn't know what actually, I knew what the radio is. I love to listen to the radio, and I still do today. But I had no idea about what actually a radio station looks like. How is it actually working? What is the whole thing behind the radio that we know, that we get home, we turn it up, and we just listen to whatever it comes up from there. And I can still remember that moment when I walked in. I remind you and myself too, I was not 15 yet. I was a little boy. I was just starting the high school and having that cool project, and all of the colleagues, the other 3 colleagues that I was with, and we were trying to present this project to the manager of the radio station. They started to talk I was completely absent, but not in a way that you might think. It is in a very particular way, because somehow when I've entered that radio station, I felt like something really important is actually happening. Dear me, after all this time, if I could just look at that little version of myself and just like really tell him, like, gosh, I'm still talking about this, and I'm 49 years old and I'm actually remembering that moment. I don't know what it was. I can't explain it. I don't know if it was all these people. There were so many people there. Everyone looked like he had something to do, and whatever they were doing and whatever everyone was doing, it looked important. I never seen anything like it. I never seen and experienced anything like that. And I saw these huge speakers, and for the first time when I've entered that studio, I remember the music hit me differently. I can still, if you're asking me what I was wearing that day, I don't remember. If you're asking me what was the track, the song that it was playing when I've entered the studio, the actual production studio on the radio station, I can tell you for sure that it was Eric Clapton. It was Layla. And I don't know how many of you remember that song and the way that guitar that Eric plays, the way that guitar is crying. I literally felt that cry. For me, it was so goosebumping because I never experienced music with that kind of depth. And maybe because I didn't have a huge hi-fi surround studio, whatever audio at home that I could just listen to music in a completely different kind of way. Maybe because I don't know why. It was just that radio station, that song, and that moment that I can. If Layla will start playing anywhere in the world at this moment, tomorrow, the day after, 10 years from now, and I know that it will take me back to that October when the way that Eric Clapton's Layla sounded, that for me, it was one of those moments when I understood that music is the thing for me. That is going to be something very important for me. And not just for a year or two, not just while I will grow up. Music will always be the thing. And I don't regret it, because even so, I have heard Layla before, and I knew I liked Eric Clapton a lot. And I just realized that inside of that production room, that everything has a magic way of transposing into reality. And as cold as Clapton's guitar sounds in Layla's, it's very unplugged. It's rough. It's almost metallic if you're thinking about it. I felt it human. And I felt a human connection with music through Layla, through that song. And I think that is pretty incredible, because music has this magic way of making us feel certain things that otherwise we can just talk about them, but we will never really know what we're talking about. At that age, I was not even 15, if you remember, I didn't know anything about that song. I knew how it went, but I didn't know that the song was written in the 70s by the Derek and the Dominos. I didn't know that actually Eric Clapton was playing that song with the Derek and the Dominos. I haven't had any clue about the transition that actually the song does from that guitar intro to the piano outro, which is absolutely genius, if you're asking me. And years after, I think that is just, if I refer to music moments and what actually made a difference for me, I think that on that hallway at that radio station, in that music production room, was one of those moments. And funny thing, something that hit me so bad, but I didn't know at that moment. I didn't know why. The next day I went to school, as I always did. And right after school, I went back to the radio station. And I found a way, because I could always talk my way into everything and anything. I found a way with the guard to actually let me get in again. And I'm not going to bother you with all the details, but I kept going back every single day. I went back in that radio station. I found from the first moment, the second day when I went in, I found a corner in one of the hallways right in between the newsroom and the production room. And I just stayed there. Found myself a little place. I sat down literally on the ground. I got myself I had like a little notebook. And I was just, with a pencil, just finding a way to find something to do without bothering anyone, but being there and listening to the music and watching those amazing people at work. I'm actually pretty sure that nobody noticed me. I don't think anyone noticed our project that we went with the day before. The manager, I basically don't even remember his face that day. But I just remember I can see that little guy sitting in that little corner, always being there in that radio station. I can always visualize exactly the time when I was just leaving school after being in class and walking to the radio station and spending hours there. I haven't felt thirst or hunger. I didn't need basically anything. I was just sitting there. It was stronger than me, and it was stronger than anything else that I knew before, and I couldn't put my finger on it and say this is happening. I just knew every day that I have to go back there, and I did for weeks actually. It's funny because I by staying there, obviously they got very familiar with my face being there, and it wasn't like today. I mean, people were not worried about you stealing. I was just a very skinny little boy that I had my little notebook and was just looking at everything and trying to understand everything that was happening. I was listening to every single piece of conversation in that radio station. I've started to know people. I started to know who is who, and I started to know what they were doing, and who is writing the news, who's editing the news, who is actually the speaker of the news. How do they work together in a team? What's happening? How the music goes? Who is the producer behind the show, and so on for like weeks. I remember weeks. And it's funny because these weeks turned into months, and I could never. My parents were. I remember my mom was asking me when I was coming home, like, where was I? And I was lying a lot. I said I was with the boys playing football. I said I was at school, after school, doing extra things. It's like I was always lying about something. But I'm pretty sure mom at some point knew that I'm doing something that I'm not supposed to do. And she was not very worried, I think, and I'm guessing, because she had a lot of trust in me, and it was a good thing she did. But myself, those moments, I was just discovering a new world. It was the world of music that I had no access to it. Because unfortunately, growing into a family with not a lot of means and everything, I did not have everything that we have today. With all these, gadgets and all of the things what we can just use in order to just, listen to music, watch movies, and see everything. I have none of those. So for me, discovering music through that radio station was literally a treasure. So I think everything, I created myself a little dimension besides school. I love going to school, but going to school for me was something that I had to do somehow, because the society asked me to go to school. I liked it. I loved it. I've been through school. I never quitted it. But I was just waiting for that 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 2:30, just to get my things and head to the radio station. And about 4 weeks after doing that, I remember it was I think it was almost, no, it was more than 4. I think it was about 6 weeks altogether. Anyways, it was the winter. So I was just in my corner of the radio station, and I just heard someone from the news department saying to one of the other guys in the other room that, man, I am so hungry. I would die for a hamburger. And it was like a very cool little hamburger place, like 3 blocks down. And he said to the other guy, because he was editing the news at that moment, and he said to the other guy, like, would you just go grab some burgers for all of us? There were like 4 of them at that moment in the station. And this guy said, like, well, I don't really feel like, it's cold and I don't really want to go. I don't know how, and I don't know why. I said, I'll go. I think that was the first moment after all those weeks when they have realized I'm still there. Because they all turn and look at me. I got scared of the fact that I said I'll go, because I was not in control of that. That it just came out naturally, spontaneously. I said I'll go. There's nothing wrong with it. And that guy looked at the other guy next to him, then looked at the lady in the control room, and I said, Christina, would you want one? And she said, yeah. So immediately, they were not questioning the fact of me going and getting the burgers, but they were thinking about what to get, each one of them. I got my notebook, got the burgers that I wanted, the drinks. I left, I got them, I came back. Everyone was eating. Everyone was very, very, I haven't got anything for me. But not because I was not hungry, because I felt so useful at that moment. I felt amazingly useful, like being part of like a bigger thing that I ever dreamt about. I just bought 6 burgers. Well, if I think today, it's like, sounds so ridiculous, but that's what happened. And I loved it. And I came back, I sat down in my corner, and I remember that from that day, every single other day I was coming back, I was greeted, and they just somehow knew that I'm there, and they were aware of the fact that I was there. My whole story that I'm trying to tell you is that how important was for me as a kid to be as persistent with something that I felt. I felt something bigger than me. I felt something very important, which was music. And I felt like my place is there. I haven't asked for it, anyone. Maybe the guard. But he started to like me a lot. And I started to be part of that environment. And whenever someone needed to do something at the copy machine, they will say, the kid will do it. When someone else wanted to go buy a flower bouquet for his fiance, he sent the kid to do that. I'm pretty sure that at that point nobody knew my name. Everyone was referring and when they were talking between themselves and they were just finding myself something to do, they were referring to me as a kid. And nobody I don't think nobody decided that the kid was part of that radio station. I haven't did that myself as well, but I just continue going there, and I had access to every single show that I wanted to listen and be part of it, and I was just right there, and I was just listening to every piece of music that it was up there on the speakers, and I was looking at every single CD, because back then all of the music at a radio station was actual physical. It was there. There were like thousands of CDs and cassettes, and it was amazing. And I always had the possibility to, they kind of like gave me this freedom of listening to all that music. So that is the moment when myself opened to music completely. And it was magic. It was absolutely magic. I'm trying to remember this moment, and I eventually said to my parents as well too that was how I was spending my time. And I remember how nobody understood why a radio station, because it was so random, because I had nothing to do with it, because no one really in my family understood radio as the definition of something that someone will do for other thousands of people without waiting for anything in return. It wasn't like today when you were expecting so many followers on your Instagram, and the radio station has to just like compare this graphics of audience with all of the other radio stations. That's bullshit. Back then, everything was about the passion of someone, an individual sitting at the back of a microphone and listen to the music that he liked, and somehow try to have other people around him liking the same kind of music. And I was in love with everyone at that radio station. The passion behind everything that they were doing. The ones that they were doing the news, the ones that they were doing the evening shows. I remember that it was later on, I got to work with this guy, Adi. I remember how incredibly smart that person was, and still is today, I'm pretty sure. Every single time he was opening the line of the microphone, was saying something that it was catching me off guard. And I love that. Because watching a movie, you can expect kind of like what's happening, the intuition can tell you what the script is going and everything. Listening to a song, you can easily do that. Listening to a person, a human, it's opening that microphone line, is actually saying something. You don't know what that guy is going to say. You don't know what kind of I don't know. I think that the only thing that I remember, it was how incredibly seemed for me that someone can just open that line on the mixer, talk into a microphone, and somehow I knew that thousands of other people in my city could actually just listen to that voice. It was absolutely incredible. From a psychological point of view, there is something very interesting about the whole story that I'm trying to tell you. And it's when we are trying to become extraordinarily familiar with something that it's comfortable at the beginning, because for me it was comfortable to go into that corner, into that radio station, because I found my way in. It was challenging in the beginning because the guard didn't want me to go through, but then he understood I'm harmless, but then everything became so comfortable and everything became so familiar to me. And repeating one action that makes you feel comfortable, I think it changes the way we perceive the whole reality. And it's not a joke, because nothing dramatic has to happen for you to feel good about one thing. I knew that I wanted to listen to music. So I knew I wanted to go into the radio station. I knew that if I'm asking someone for permission, I am not going to have it. So I find a way in. And I became the errands boy of the radio station. I was the kid that was doing everything and anything for anyone. And about 4 months into my life at that moment, I already passed and I turned 15. And I do remember one day. And it was this evening show that I was telling you about it. And when it was happening, it was, there were two people that were working together all the time. It was the producer and the speaker, the entertainer of the whole show. And it was pretty interesting because about 40 minutes into the show, the actual producer felt sick and just said simply, I can't attend, I can't do this, this is impossible, I can't produce the show tonight. And somehow everything happened in such a way that the morning producer was sick as well too, and they had to cancel the show. I think you guessed it right. I was still there, but I was not nobody anymore. I was the kid that was always there. And this kid again said, I'll do it. This was not a burger anymore. This was more than going and get water for somebody. This was more than buying flowers. This was producing a night show. I was 15. I had no knowledge about mixing and, if some of you remember the mixers and the radio stations were those huge platforms with all these buttons. But remember, I was in that radio station day by day. And I didn't know, but me being there, I was not just the kid on the floor sketching something on his notebook. Somehow, as a sponge, I absorbed all of the information around me. And I remember the guy, the manager, that it was, he looked at me and he said, like, kid, this is a serious matter. I mean, we are not talking about you going to the copying machine. And this is, are you telling me you can do this? And I said, yeah, I think I can do it. And at that point, we were about probably 10 minutes into the show, and I did it. And the feeling of me sitting into that chair, it was, I think, one of the first times that I sat into a chair that it's moving and turning around for me. Wow. Yeah, you might be laughing right now, but it was just incredible. I sat down right there and I was definitely shitting my pants because I said I'm going to do one thing and I was pretty sure I'm going to fuck it up. But I didn't. I knew my way in. I knew the channels in the control room over the entertainer. I knew my channels into the newsroom with the news guys. I knew with the music, I know how to mix in the music and just keeping docking under their voices where they were talking. I did struggle at the beginning a little bit with, there was this advertising little pieces that you had to put in from time to time, and there I did struggle a little bit, but I did it. That was the first time in my life when I felt that I have done something so important, bigger than anything else that I've done before. And that kid, that persistent kid, got on that production chair and helped with the production of a show on a radio station. Going home that night, I don't know how I got home. Probably I ran. I think I ran. It was very cold. I got home and I was so happy. Then when I explained to my mom what I did, I don't think she understood half of what I've said. She just knew that somehow I was very happy. And I was very happy because when I went back the next day, they smiled. They said hi. They liked me. They liked having me there. I was not just very weird, skinny kid sitting on a hallway and trying to just like listen to the song that was coming out from the production room. So in a very strange way, when everyone today is asking me, why DJ Kid? Why did you keep that name? It was not something that I ever thought about it. I didn't have to. I just came up naturally. I was always the kid, and I will always be the kid. Somehow, if you're asking my wife today, she will still refer to me as the kid. Because I don't want to grow up. I wish I am not going to grow up. Because as a kid, I always had this... My expectations in life as a kid were so big towards myself. I always wanted to do whatever I do without letting myself down. I don't want to do anything to be ashamed of. And because of this way, this kiddie kind of way of doing it, I will never want to disappoint people that I really, really love. People that I really like to have around me. Because when you do respect you and your doing around you, it is impossible to hurt the other ones around you. I think so. And kids usually are doing that much better than what we're doing. And 15 years old, that was a moment that it just changed my life. In the beginning of this episode, I said that I'm going to talk about those people or moments that it changed their all lives. And if somebody will ask you, what is that moment that really changed your life? Probably for me, it was the burger. It was the burger moment when that guy wanted a hamburger and I said, I'm going. And somehow it was not even just the hamburger moment, but it was that guy that wanted the hamburger that when I said I'm going, he was okay with it. The same idea is weeks later, months later, when the producer got sick and I said I'm going to do the show on his behalf. And that person gave me the possibility to do it. They actually said, okay, try it. that person changed my life, had such an important saying in my existence. And somehow we've started this episode thinking about people that have just influenced our lives, and we don't talk about them and we don't mention them all the time. This is one of the moments that I would like to mention that guy. I don't remember his name. That's funny, isn't it? I barely remember his face. How incredible is that? I do remember the day when I got married to my beautiful woman. I don't remember the shoes I was wearing, but I do remember when I peeled an orange, the Christmas of 35, 36 years ago. It's incredible. There is so much to talk about it because we take it for granted, and we shouldn't, because whatever we think it's normal when happens, it might just not be normal, and it might be a way that life says, this is a pretty cool moment and it's pretty bold. This is when life it's changing for you. And I actually think that it's a privilege to be able to detach yourself and look at this and say, oh my God, it is incredible. That person really marked my life. And it's not even about time at the end of the day, because sometimes we can refer to all of this happening as time, I remember the days that I was going to the radio station. So then obviously the radio station for me became a fixed thing. I always worked into the radio. I always doing something in the radio station. So next summer I remember that my friends in the neighborhood were like, everyone was making plans and like going to the beach, who to go with, who's coming, what would be the gangs that will go together and everything. And I haven't, in a very weird way, at that very fresh age, I haven't felt like I'm losing anything. I haven't felt like I am not going to the beach with my gang. I was at the mixing board. I had Chris Rea playing on the beach. And I was there. And I think that my idea of being on the beach was better than the other. Now, some of you will say, you should just be out there doing that and doing that. No. I beg to differ for the simple reason that I chose every time and everything that I did in my life, I chose what it made me feel in a way complete. And not always fooling around with the boys were just like doing it was a choice. Weird one. Because I have the same kind of problem today. And I was just talking with a very good friend of mine from the UK. And it was like, are you going out with them? No. Well, you just no. If I find a little free time in my daily routine, I love to spend that time among the people that I love the most. And I want to do things that are really, really refill me for the next day. I love spending time with my best friend. And yes, I am very lucky because I got to marry my best friend. So my best friend is my partner. So spending time with my partner, it's like spending time with my best friend. And yes, I'm lucky from that point of view. I acknowledge that very well. But I don't feel like going into a bar and playing silly and stupid with some men of my age will make me feel better than just like staying in the garden and my wife asking me to cut the lawn, and she always tells me like, please remember there is that, the power cord, it's so long and it tangles around all the time. And she always tells me like, Dan, please be careful, please be careful, please. And I always said like, you don't know what you're saying. I'm always careful. I'm so careful. And the next thing I know, I've caught that little stupid little power cord in 3 different ways possible at the same action. And I love that. That is just a great, it's a great moment when you acknowledge that you can be with a person that makes you feel good, and at the same time, if you make him or her feel good, it's a treasure nowadays. Because that time, as we said in a previous episode, this time is the only thing we can get back. And if this is the time that we have and we were given, we need to find a way to actually make it worth our while. I know you're going to say, like, everybody knows how important time is. Of course we do. Everybody knows that. But how many of us understand that if that time that we have, which is limited, how important is that in that particular very small amount of time that we have in our life? What do we do with it? Are we going to complain all the time? Are we just going to every single time? I hate this. I wanted to say love it, but I don't. I hate it when I go somewhere in the morning. I just get to the bar next to my business. I get a coffee. The first thing I hear is like, oh my God, again, I have to go to work. I have to put up with my boss. I have to do that. I have to sell. I have to go there. I have to buy my tickets. I have to go to vacation. I have to buy shoes for my little kids. Like, everyone is complaining about something. And that's not something I like. Complaining, it's something that always made me close my circle more and more. And there is another thing that makes me close my circle every day. It's the conspiracy theories that everyone has. Just the other day, I was watching a podcast, and someone was actually worried. Like, this podcaster was worried about the fact that people really don't believe that humanity got to the moon. They actually deny a fact that happened and changed somehow the course of our lives. We started to deny science, we started to deny facts, and there is always a conspiracy theory somewhere that someone is doing something to us so bad, because I'm done with that. I can't spend my energy by thinking about that. And if they do, what? If we got to the point when we actually know that they are actually doing that and there is nothing we can do, it's worse than before. It's better just absolutely to try to guide your life in a way and do something, leave something behind you, because that's one of the biggest things that we can do with this little time we have, to actually try to make something that will outlive us. It could be anything. It could be a canvas, it could be a song, it could be a podcast, it could be a jacket, it could be make something, and make something that someone else around anywhere in the world can actually have that thing, and whenever using that thing, he will quite say thank you to you for making it. How cool is that? I know we got a little too deep at this moment, and I was talking about our radio station. I was talking about I'm looking at my computer, trying to understand what I did. Nothing of the thing that I wrote about this episode I have followed anything. This is very, very, very. I love these conversations because they get so random. The moment when someone in my childhood decided to give that kid a chance, it was the moment when the today me started to shape. So I will always be grateful that I had chosen carefully by listening to what I really want, because that's something that not everybody does. I think that we always go ahead and we try to please everyone around us. We try to do everything in order to get the likes of the people that they matter for us. We try to do right by our families. We try to do right by our teachers. We always try to do things most of the time for the others in order to get liked and to get the good vibe around us. But not always we follow our hearts through what we want, through what we like, and what would be the best thing to do for us to keep going. Social media does that, it's weird, just with this thing that we do at the moment, the podcast and everything. It's so sad when you're actually realizing that you are creating content and you're trying to put it out there. You're trying to, again, leave something behind you, and people prefer different things to that. And they do it because society tells them that that is the right thing to do. Today's episode and the way that I'm trying to remember the people that left a mark in my life without yelling, without someone saying like, this is an important moment for you. I am doing this for you, and from now on you're gonna work in a radio station. That didn't happen for me. It was much quieter. It was something so soft and something almost hard to remember. And somehow I do remember. I was 15, I was a kid, and I was given a chance in order to continue, if you want to, my life in a different way that I used to do it at that moment. I was not the errands boy anymore. I was not just the kid. I did become the kid that was able to do things. And I think that music today for me, it's based on the same idea. I think that me running a business today, it's based on the same kid that does it. I think that me being a partner for my wife, it's still that kid. And I really believe that the beauty in all this is whatever I will do, whatever I will start doing one day is something that I haven't done before. If I will start to redo things in the way that I was doing it when I was 20 or something, or I will start new projects or anything, It will always be that kid. It will always be that person right there that will have that nonchalance and to looking at the future and saying like, that can't stop me. I mean, I have to find a way to do that. And it was not always like that, because life teaches you in a very cruel way that whatever you really dreamt about it and whatever you imagine that it's going to happen at some point, it's not going to. And but I was lucky. I was lucky because my best friend, it is the type of person that whenever I forget how easy, beautiful, and simple life is, she'll always find a way to remind me that. And is that important? No, I think that's the most important thing, because we have our bad days and we have our down moments, and sometimes life unexpectedly is just throws something at you that you're not really ready to have at that moment to deal with. But when you have someone next to you right there that somehow finds a way to tell you and to get you back on a track by saying like, listen, you've got this. There is a way that means more than anything else in the world. Not only at that moment, but in general. And this is one thing that I find fascinating about life. Life works because it's a continuum mix. A good life, I'm saying. It's a continuum mix between reality and memory. Put all these two pieces together, and if there is a way that when reality and memory, they're kind of like merging together, if that happens without you knowing that it's actually happening, that's when you know you've got a good life. It's not about anything else that it might just be possible thinking about it. It's not the cars, it's not the money, it's not the traveling, it's not how many books you're reading, it's not how many... No. It's about you living that moment through your memory and just having the feeling that you've done right. You know, always you have to ask yourself, and I do, if I did good by the people, if I was a good guy. And it's very hard to answer that question. It's very hard. And most of the time when I ask myself that question, I do it with a loud voice, and the answer is not nice. And I never got to the point when I said I am a good guy. I didn't really get to that point, because I don't know, it's weird, because you see, this is a moment that I thought that I'm not going to talk about it, but just somehow it came out. You feel you are a good person, but you know that not everything that you've done, it was the right thing to do. And somehow you will try to, I don't know if it's about finding excuses for whatever you did or everything. And it's so sad that sometimes you have to look back and say, probably I would have done that differently. I think that is one of the moments when I don't really like myself. All this leads me to, the that idea that I always had, and I'm guiding my life through it basically day by day. It's always giving somebody a chance to feel like what they do, it's important. I think that's so free of charge, making someone feel good about themselves. Maybe there is someone in your life right now, this very moment, that needs you to say it. You can say it. Tell that person, I believe you. I trust you. You've got this. Give them the meaning to go over the next step. You don't need to change someone's life forever. You don't need to think about every day that what you're doing is going to be that very important thing that will going to change someone's existence forever. Don't think about this thing in that way. Just be a better person by trying to find a good thing to do or to say every day. It's not easy. I don't think it's easy for any of us, because we've got problems. We carry a lot of those problems over our shoulders. It kind of becomes a burden sometimes. It's so much. And we never know what the person next to us is actually carrying, because everyone is carrying something. So when you get to the point that you get into an argument with somebody, you're not just having an argument with that person, you're having an argument with that person's weight from its shoulders. So being a better person means to give that person in the front of you a good reason to keep going, because we all need that. It's as simple as it is. We just need the reason to be able to wake up tomorrow morning happy and not unhappy. We need to find ourselves useful. We need to know that somebody out there needs us in a way or another. It could be business, it could be pleasure, it could be anything. Life in general, it's about finding a purpose. And the purpose, most of the time, it's within ourselves. And it's very hard to bring it out. I know. It's not just something that you can just say, then it comes out of something. It's not that you bring up a feeling, you bring up a lesson, you talk about a song, you talk about an orange, you talk about something, and somehow everything sounds better. No, it is not that simple. You acknowledge your flaws, you know how good you are, and you know how much good you've done around you. You put that in balance with who you are today, the reality that you're going through at the moment, and then you let your memories flow all of that reality. And that, at the end of the day, it's going to give you a sum of whoever you are and what you've done. Then it's going to make you a good person or not. And these are the things we keep. And I really want me, as much as I would like you to do the same thing, keep these things. And those things that you're keeping, all of these versions of you, all of these memories, keep them, because they are telling your story. They are telling you about your story, but they are telling the others what your story is. And this is what this podcast is all about. It was pretty unbelievable being here with you today. And thank you for letting me again being part of your routine. Enjoy everything that you have to do today. Get ready for tomorrow. And don't forget, take care of the things you keep, because they are telling your stories. Cheers. Thank you.